12 words. Women over 70 should stop saying honest advice from a man who deeply understands and respects you. Welcome to Talk with John, your trusted space for real stories and smart advice for life after 60. I'm John, I'm 68, and over the last 40 plus years, I've worked closely with people navigating the later stages of life, particularly women. I've been a counselor, a listener, and above all, a witness to how words, small, habitual ones, can quietly shape our self-worth and even our health. Let me be clear, this isn't about criticizing or correcting. It's about inviting you to speak in ways that reflect the depth, resilience, and dignity you already possess. Because too often I've seen extraordinary women reduce themselves through language without even knowing it. Let's walk through 12 common words or phrases that, if you're willing to let go of or reframe, could free up more space for a confidence, peace, and connection. Just, a quiet undermining. This word slips in when we're trying to be polite, but it often sends the wrong message. Women say, I just wanted to check in. Just a thought. I'm just trying to help. The intention may be humility, but the effect is self-diminishing. Just can make even wise statements sound like afterthoughts. And when used habitually, it creates a pattern of softening your presence in the world. After decades of experience, your voice deserves clarity, not apology. Try this. I wanted to check in. Here's what I think. Removing just doesn't make you rude, it makes you heard. In a study published in the Harvard Business Review, researchers found that women often use minimizing language like just or sorry more than men in professional and social communication, and it leads others to perceive them as less authoritative. That means this isn't just about grammar, it's about how people respond to you. Dropping just may feel bold at first, but it helps reclaim the respect your voice deserves. 2. Old and more than a number. Too often age is spoken about like a finish line. I've heard women say, I'm too old for that. At my age, why bother? Here's the truth. Age isn't a limitation, it's data. It tells you how far you've come, not what you can't do. When you reduce yourself to being just old, you discard decades of strength, insight, and adaptability. There's nothing inherently limiting about being 70 or 80. The only real limitations come from mindset, not mileage. Instead of I'm too old, say, I've lived enough to know what matters. I bring a lifetime of perspective to this. You are not old, you are seasoned. And seasoning, as any great cook knows, brings out the richest flavor. Think of women like Grandma Moses, who began painting seriously in her 70s and became world famous in her 80s. Or Iris Apfel, who entered the fashion spotlight at 84. These women didn't let age define their boundaries. They used it to expand their impact. You can do the same. I'm sorry when you haven't done anything wrong. Apologies are essential when they're earned. But when women apologize unnecessarily, the word sorry becomes a reflex rather than a reflection. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, I don't know. These phrases signal self-doubt more than humility. Over-apologizing subtly teaches others and yourself that your presence is a burden. There's a more powerful alternative. Excuse me, I'd like to add something. That's a new concept for me. I'd like to learn more. This isn't about being pushy. It's about being grounded. You've earned your place in every room you walk into. Psychologists have found that chronic over-apologizing is often rooted in low self-worth and social conditioning, especially among women raised to prioritize harmony. But as you age, your presence becomes more precious, not less. Speaking without apology doesn't mean you're inconsiderate. It means you've stopped asking permission to exist. Or can't, a word that locks doors. This one is more dangerous than it seems. When I hear someone say, I can't figure that out, I can't start over now, I hear resignation where there should be resilience. The truth is, what we often mean is I'm uncomfortable or I'm uncertain, but can't shuts down all possibility. In fact, brain science tells us that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to learn and adapt, continues well into our later decades. Learning is slower, yes, but still entirely possible. Instead of can't, try. This is new, but I'm open to trying. I haven't done that yet, but I'm curious. Capability is not about age, it's about approach. Change your language, and your world starts to expand again. When you say can't, your brain actually stops searching for solutions. But when you say, how can I, it opens the door to creativity and problem solving. Even if your physical abilities change, your capacity to adapt, grow, and contribute never truly disappears unless you decide it does. 5. Should, the guilt magnet. Should is a word wrapped in regret and expectation. I should have done more. I should be better at this. But should rarely moves us forward. It keeps us anchored to judgment, mostly toward ourselves. Instead of motivating change, should builds invisible walls of guilt. It ties your self-worth to an outdated checklist of expectations you didn't even create. Reframe it like this. I choose to do this because it matters to me. I want to focus my energy where it brings joy. Let's replace obligation with intention. At this stage of life, every choice should be rooted in meaning, not shame. Guilt drains energy. Motivation comes from clarity and desire. A 2019 study from Stanford University found that people are far more likely to follow through with goals when they feel autonomous, not pressured. Language like "I choose to" reinforces self-leadership, while "I should" only reinforces inadequacy. The shift may seem small, but the emotional payoff is profound. 6. Ugly, especially when talking about yourself. I've seen it happen. A kind, radiant woman looks in the mirror and says, "I look so ugly today." My heart aches every time. Because here's the truth. Aging changes how we look, but it never lessens our worth. Calling yourself ugly not only wounds your self-esteem, it reinforces a narrow, youth-obsessed definition of beauty that never served women to begin with. And here's what's worse. The more you say it, the more your brain believes it. Neuroscience tells us that negative self-talk strengthens negative neural pathways. Over time, this kind of language literally reshapes how you see yourself. Instead of "I look ugly," try, "This is me exactly as I am today." There's beauty in these lines. They carry my story. Beauty isn't about symmetry or smooth skin. It's about expression, warmth, character, and grace. And no one carries those like a woman who's lived. 7. Lonely, a word that can isolate you further. Lonely is one of the most loaded words I've heard from women over 70. And often it's spoken softly, as if it's something to be ashamed of. But let's be honest, loneliness isn't weakness. It's human. Still, the way we talk about it matters. Saying "I'm lonely" too often can start to create an identity around isolation. You begin to believe that loneliness is permanent, rather than something that can shift. I once spoke with a woman named Clara, 74. Widowed, children move far away. She told me, "I feel invisible, like I could disappear and no one would notice." And I told her, "You are not invisible, you've just been too quiet with your light." Instead of saying "I'm lonely," try, "I'm looking for more connection. I'm open to meeting new people." There's a huge difference between resigning to being alone and expressing a desire to connect. And here's a fact. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that social interaction, even just once a week, dramatically improves cognitive health and emotional well-being in older adults. Language either opens a door or locks it. Let your words welcome in what your heart truly wants: connection, presence, and companionship. 8. Too, as in too old, too tired, too late. Too is a word that often sounds final, and falsely so. I've heard women say, "I'm too tired to travel. It's too late to learn something new. I'm too old to make new friends." Here's what I've learned. Too often means we've already told ourselves we've missed the moment. But in reality, the only true deadline in life is the one we set in our minds. I once worked with a woman named Margot, 79. She'd always wanted to learn watercolor painting, but told me that window closed a long time ago. With a little encouragement, she gave it a shot, and within a year, her artwork was displayed at a local gallery. What changed? One word: possibility. Instead of saying "too late," try, "This might take more time, but I'm ready." It's never too late to do something meaningful. The Journal of Aging Studies notes that older adults who embrace a growth mindset, believing they can still develop skills and relationships, report higher life satisfaction and lower rates of depression. So let's retire the word "too" when it comes to possibility. Your energy may change, your pace may slow, but your capacity to grow, create, and connect, it's still right there waiting on the other side of belief. 9. Can't complain, a mask that silences connection. We've all said it. Someone asks how you're doing, and out comes, "Can't complain." It sounds polite, it sounds modest, but it can also be deeply misleading. In my years talking with older women, I've found that this phrase is often used to avoid vulnerability. You may not want to burden others. You may feel your problems don't measure up to someone else's. But saying can't complain can cut you off from real conversation and emotional support. I remember Anna, a 75-year-old woman in one of my support groups. For weeks, she said nothing but, "I'm fine," or "can't complain." Then one day she finally opened up. "Actually, I'm struggling. I miss my sister every day, and it's been hard to sleep." The floodgates opened, and so did the warmth of the group around her. She later told me, "I didn't realize how heavy it felt until I let it out." Try instead. "I'm managing, but I've had some tough days. I'm okay, but I could use a little company." Psychologist Dr. Susan David calls this emotional agility, the ability to name your experience honestly so you can move through it instead of being stuck under it. Honesty creates connection. Politeness, when overused, can become a wall. Let yourself be seen. Not every day is good. That's what makes the good days shine brighter. Bin. Saw man tin. I used to be. A phrase that traps you in the past. It's easy to look back and say, "I used to be full of energy. I used to be the life of the party. I used to be strong." But each time you say "I used to," you anchor your identity in a version of yourself that no longer exists. That's not fair to who you are now. Who you are today may be quieter, but you are also wiser, more grounded, more selective with your energy and time. That's growth, not loss. In my counseling work, I often guide women to reframe their stories. Instead of mourning what they used to be, we celebrate what they've become. I've learned to focus on what matters. I move differently now, but with purpose. I no longer need the spotlight. I bring light where I go. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that focusing on current strengths, not past identities, leads to higher life satisfaction in older adults. You're not a faded version of your former self. You're a refined version, full of stories that still matter. Let go of what you were, embrace what you are becoming. 11. It's always been this way. The sentence that blocks growth. This phrase often slips in when routines grow rigid. I've always handled it this way. That's just how I've done things. But let's be honest, growth doesn't stop just because you've entered your 70s. In fact, it might matter more now than ever. Saying "it's always been this way" can be a way of defending habits that no longer serve you. I once knew a woman named Doreen, 81. She'd always been the fixer in her family, the one who kept everyone else in line. But as she aged, it started draining her. Finally, she said, "I've done it this way for 40 years. Maybe it's time to stop." And when she did, she felt free. Change isn't a betrayal of who you were. It's a gift to who you are now. Instead of "it's always been this way," try. Maybe it's time to try something new. What would it look like if I let this evolve? When you let go of outdated patterns, you make room for new joy, new connection, and new versions of yourself. The most vibrant people I know in their later years, they're the ones still learning, still questioning, still open. You don't have to abandon everything. Just be willing to adjust. Sometimes the smallest shift can let in the biggest light. 12. I'm fine. The lie we tell ourselves. This one might be the most common and the most quietly harmful. "I'm fine" is often used to avoid attention, to appear strong, or to keep from burdening others. But here's the thing, saying "I'm fine" when you're not is like wrapping a beautiful gift and never opening it. It hides the richness of your truth, the chance for connection, and the relief that comes from being real. When I ask women how they're doing, I often get "I'm fine," until they feel safe enough to say, "Actually, I'm overwhelmed. I'm hurting and don't want to admit it." And the moment that truth is spoken, something beautiful happens. Other people step in, compassion flows, and you no longer have to carry everything alone. Try instead. "I'm doing okay, but some days are harder than others. I'm feeling grateful, but I could use a good chat." Research from the University of California shows that expressing authentic emotion, not suppressing it, leads to lower blood pressure, better immunity, and longer lifespan. Being honest about how you feel is not a burden, it's a bridge. You don't have to be fine, you just have to be real, and that's more than enough. And final thoughts. These 12 words or phrases may seem small, but how we speak to ourselves becomes how we treat ourselves, and how we treat ourselves becomes the tone of our lives. I hope, from one friend to another, you'll consider letting go of the words that dim your light and choose ones that reflect the power, grace, and beauty you've earned. Your voice matters. Your story is still unfolding, And it's never too late to speak in a way that honors who you truly are. If you found it helpful, please like video and share it with someone you love. You might just help them enjoy a more fulfilling life too. Thank you for watching the Talk with John channel. I'm John. See you in the next episode.